Hey guys, welcome back to another episode in the month of Hidden Gem. Wait, what? Dang, what the heck have I been doing? Alright, look, I could stack the deck and line up 30 bangers in a row, but I don't think the world is ready for that yet. How can I say this? Think of it like this. Take March of the Penguins, for example. It's a fine film, one of the greats. But imagine at the same time you got the new Star Wars movie coming out and all the theaters are booked up. I gotta give it my all on this one. Speaking of March of the Penguins, we have ourselves a potential slaughtering today with Meganium and Venusaur. Yeah, you clicked on this for a reason. Meganium is trash. Meganium is cheeks. Meganium is one of the worst starters ever created.
Let's start at the very bottom of the tier list with the F tier. And at the very bottom of the list is everyone's favorite dinosaur, Meganium.
Or at least these are some of the things you've been told. Me, I suppose Meganium is a flawed Pokemon, as are all others, but I'll leave that up for debate when you see what we have in store today. Venusaur, on the other hand, is the grandfather of the Pokédex. It's called Bulbapedia for a reason. I'd say it has a decent to good reputation, but it's overrated. Today's contest will have me completing Pokemon Gold with each of our contestants in a solo challenge run, and analyzing where things went wrong and things went right. I have some rules which are in the description. I'll start with Chikorita and Bulbasaur and evolve them as we progress. I also want to stress that I do not use Hidden Power, so I'm not going to be saucing up my Venusaur with some random ice type attacks. Anyways, we'll talk more about the types, stats, and moves of our Pokemon as we get rooted in this challenge. I am going to switch it up today and begin with Chikorita rather than Bulbasaur, just so we can begin to understand why Meganium is so bad, yet also not so bad. I could be mistaken, but perhaps it will cause some opinions to turn over a new leaf. Even though I do have a soft spot for Meganium, I still gotta stick to the script and name our Pokemon Megarbage. Yup, fitting. I will say the stats do have more than meets the eye. Meganium is basically Grass Blastoise with good defenses and stats that make you say,
I mean, it's alright, like...
But it's a mono grass type. The grass type alone is Grassfamous with 5 weaknesses. Poison and Bug are plentiful with endless Team Rocket encounters, and Fire, Flying, and Ice are common enough, especially at crucial parts of the end game, but also the beginning. Think about it, we have Faulkner, who's a Flying type, and Bugsy, who's, well, yeah. Not to mention Morty, although the Ghost type has only Poison and Dual types, which will nullify anything we can do with any Grass type moves. Things do open up after that, but just wait until the Elite Four. Meganium has a death sentence coming, and Will's Ice, Coca's Bug, just Karen in general, and Lance's Dragon and Flying types. For comparison, Venusaur is Grass and Poison, while swapping in a higher special attack for lower but still good defense. Things aren't necessarily going to be easy for either, but more on that when we get to Venusaur after we swap over in a few moments. With all of that, hopefully the first baddie battle doesn't end in disaster. We have a long road ahead of us. Naturally, the rival starter will be Cyndaquil, but starting off we do have Tackle and Growl, and it has Scratch and Leer. Should be manageable. Future rival battles may not be so simple, but let's deal with this for now. When the rival sends out his Cyndaquil, I could use Growl, but I'll use Tackle instead. Cyndaquil outspeeds with Leer, and Tackle lands doing about a 9th. Next turn, Tackle does 4 to us. Over the next 2 moves, things take a grim turn as we end in the orange. We're holding a berry, which might get us across as long as our tackles don't miss. We get tackled just fine and dish it back, but the next time does not look as good as we get crit. We take Cyndaquil to red, and its tackle misses while ours lands, securing the first victory for Chikorita. The baddie has been dismantled. We head back to Elms to report to the police so that we can start to make our way to Violet City. While the first battle wasn't that bad, we need to take a look at what's ahead for our seedling. Chikorita will evolve into Bayleaf at level 16 and then Meganium at level 32. It's the same progression for Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, and Venusaur too. In terms of level up moves, what you see here is a summary table for the entire evolution line, so keep that in mind. The Meganium line will play out pretty defensively as the moves back it up here. Razor Leaf at level 8 is the best grass type move we'll have in terms of damage output, so we peak early. But this is generation 2, we're not going to be critting every turn. At level 12 we get Reflect, which can help with physical attacks early on, but for a solo challenge it's limited since you can only use it once until it wears off. Unfortunately, it's not a straight stat raiser like Acid Armor. We also don't have enough time to deal with Poison Powder. Synthesis early on at level 22 is actually not bad. Synthesis works a lot like Recover, but also fully heals with Sunny Day. I don't know if I'll go that far with 2 move slots, but Synthesis will really help the bulky Pokemon. Then we get Body Slam. Generally, damage output is favored, so something like Return might seem better, but Body Slam is actually pretty good since it has a 30% chance to paralyze. I think I'll go with that instead, so we're going to be super slamming foes the rest of the way. The last useful move will be Light Screen. Most of the late game stuff that can really burn us are going to be special attacks from fire or ice types. We can absorb most physical attacks just fine with Synthesis. Overall, Meganium has a good level up moveset. It's really not bad. In terms of TMs, we also get our standard fare of Headbutt, Return, etc. I will point out Giga Drain, which we can get in Kanto after the Elite Four, and Earthquake, which we get right before the Elite Four. That will be extremely useful to have as coverage for some of the baddies we'll face in the critical part of the game. Meganium on paper doesn't look that bad. There are going to be some major bottlenecks though. I mean, the first gem is Flying type. Luckily, I do go through Sprout Tower and Gold and Silver, so we have the chance to pick up some experience before trying Faulkner. It's full of Bellsprout and ideal candidate to train against. We reach Sage Lee at level 11. We can take him on as his team is a mini gauntlet of 2 Bellsprout and a Hoot Hoot. If that goes well, we should be ready for Faulkner. Sage Lee sends out Bellsprout first. Although we have Razor Leaf now, Tackle is the best strategy against the Grass and Poison type. A Tackle from a Garbage does a 5th. Bellsprout uses Growth, but we shouldn't worry too much at the moment. Tackle seemingly does more as we take Bellsprout to Orange, and Vine Whip does a measly 2. Next, our Tackle takes it to Red. Then we handle another Vine Whip just fine. The Bellsprout gets taken out the next turn, so now we're on to the next Bellsprout. We continue with Tackle, but the PP is starting to get low. That does a quarter. Instead of Growth, it resigns to Vine Whip, doing massive damage. We continue with Tackle the next 2 turns, looking like we'll get a knockout. However, as we go for the kill, our Tackle misses. Uh-oh. I should have switched to Razor Leaf, but I used Tackle again, letting us move on. We level up to 12 and pick up Reflect, which should help against Sage Lee's final Pokemon, Hoot Hoot. I switched to Reflect and boost our defense. It uses Foresight, which saves us some damage this round. Next turn, I switch to Razor Leaf. It does okay damage, but Tackle is only doing 3, so we can manage. We go back and forth for a few turns until we both end up at Orange Health. Our Reflect is also worn off, but we're in range for a 2-hit knockout with Razor Leaf. I use it, and it misses. It only has 95% accuracy. Tackle does 5 and leaves us with 5. I think we're going to reset here. We switch to Tackle, which doesn't do much more. Maybe Hoot Hoot will miss. Tackle doesn't and takes out the Chikorita for the first reset. That's pretty embarrassing. I try again, and when we get to the same point against Hoot Hoot, I'm hoping for better results. I use Reflect first, but Tackle does 8 now thanks to a critical. You have to be kidding. We have some more Tackles saved up this time, so I use that instead. It seems to do a little more, and over the next few turns, we both end up in Orange again. We have 1 Tackle left. It finishes the Hoot Hoot with a crit of our own, and Sprout Tower is finished, albeit with 1 reset. We did lose a little bit of time, and that was supposed to be the easy part. It makes me worried about what we're going to face with Chikorita, but we have no choice but to press on to the first gem. Faulkner's first trainer is arguably the toughest battle in the gem. He has a Spearow that is fast and strong, and has Peck. If we do manage to make it past, we are gold. Once we get in battle, I fear we won't outspeed, but we need to absorb some attacks anyways, so I'll use Reflect first. But before we do that, we get smoked with a major Peck. Reflect should help us out for the next few turns though. I switch to Razor Leaf since I'm hoping that we get the higher crit rate at some point. We do take less damage from Peck, but Razor Leaf only does a quarter. I switch to Tackle next turn to see if Spearow's meager defenses gives us an advantage. We're taking Deep Orange, and Chikorita's holding the berry, so we ought to manage. We switch back to Razor Leaf, and as we do, Peck leaves us in a 2-hit range with Reflect expiring soon. Razor Leaf does take Spearow in striking distance. Can we secure the KO next turn? Peck leaves us with 7, but we strike with a crit. I can't say if that mattered, but I can say we're well on our way to Faulkner. The next trainer only has Pidgeys with Tackle, so moving on ahead, we've got Faulkner. Faulkner could Mud Slap us, but a small advantage of being Grass type only gives a resistance to ground moves. I think it won't use it today. Still though, Pidgeotto has Gust, which could rack up quickly. If the Pidgey is only using Tackle, we can set up Reflect beforehand and let us manage. It's time to face Faulkner. First up is Pidgey. I'm really hoping it won't use Mud Slap. Razor Leaf should be alright since we're up there in the levels. We move first and do nearly half. Pidgey has predicted tackles for 3. I don't think we'll get the knockout yet, so one more Razor Leaf gets us ready. We take another tackle and we're left with 32 HP. We set up the Reflect now to maximize the benefit in case we can't get Pidgeotto down fast enough. Tackle only does 2 this time and we move on next turn. Pidgeotto comes out next. It should be about on par with Spearow since it too is only level 9. We stick with Razor Leaf and that does half with a clutch critical. Gust lands next time though and does 6. Thanks to our Reflect. We strike with another Razor Leaf but no crit this time. Gust does manage to do 7 with plenty of room to spare. We try Razor Leaf. It does enough. We level up to 14 and Faulkner is finished. Chikorita has acquired the first badge with only 1 reset at Sprout Tower. Unexpected for sure, but we're moving on to Azalea Town. Along the way, we can talk to this fellow outside of town. He will grant us the Miracle Seed. This item is definitely welcome at this point in the game. It will only boost our grass attacks by 10%, but that will be useful nonetheless. Unfortunately, we're facing off against Bugsy next, which Bug is super effective against grass. But we'll talk about that in just a moment. Along the way to Union Cave, we pick up our HM attendant Wooper. Thank you, sir. Finally, inside Union Cave, we hit level 15 and 16. At level 15, we pick up Poison Powder, which will be used for a little bit, and at level 16, we evolve into Bayleaf. That's good and all, but the momentum kind of slows here. We don't have too much to worry about, even with the bug and poison types we'll run into between the Rockets and Slowpoke Well and the trainers in Bugsy's gym. But Bugsy himself, yeah, there's a Kakuna and Metapod, but Scyther is what's actually spooky. We're straight up weak to its signature move of Fury Cutter, which doubles in damage each turn it lands, and it's already double damage because it's super effective. So yeah, I'm not really sure what we're gonna do. I guess there's only one way to find out. Time to banish Bugsy. I am perturbed, but at least Metapod is first. Also, can I say, I always thought Metapod looked like Squidward or something as a kid. I get that this is supposed to be its mouth now, not this, but the tail is kind of pointing at the wrong angle. Anyways, we will use Razor Leaf and hope for the best. It does good damage for a resisted attack. Then Metapod does a 10-time NBA All-Star. We can continue with our barrage. This takes it to red, and it follows up with a simple tackle for 2. We will level up to 20 and move on to Kakuna. This could be bad if it poisons us. I am holding a Poison Cure Berry just in case. We stick with Razor Leaf and that does major damage with a crit. Kakuna gets revenge with Poison Sting, but we slip by without a status condition. I use Reflect since we could technically get a crit again. We get hit with Poison Sting and we still don't get poisoned. Next turn we try Razor Leaf again, but still no knockout. Another Poison Sting lands, but we still aren't yet poisoned. We get the knockout next turn. We could have higher health, but not being poisoned is huge. Still, the hardest is yet to come. Scyther's next, and it will outspeed. We sustain minor damage from Fury Cutter, but keep in mind it's going to continue doubling if it doesn't miss. We land our Poison Powder, so we just need to start running out the clock. I switch to Tackle, but Scyther strikes with 11 now from Fury Cutter, taking us below half. Poison damage plus Tackle landing next turn takes Scyther down a quarter. Scyther moves with Fury Cutter and misses. Alright, let's go. Our Tackle lands and now Scyther is below half. We do get hit with Fury Cutter next turn, but after Poison and Tackle not missing, Scyther is in range. Fury Cutter does land, taking us to 8, but we aren't crit and Poison takes care of Scyther next turn. Bugsy is exterminated. That was certainly a close one. We're not out of the woods yet though, with a baddie battle before our first checkpoint. The baddie has a Ghastly, Zubat, and Quilava, none of which we can hit very easily. I'm hoping we can figure out a way to get past without too many headaches. Bugsy did give us Fury Cutter, so maybe it can help us get past this Quilava more quickly. Ghastly can't really do much except paralyze us, so let's try out that strategy. The baddie sends out Ghastly first. I could use Fury Cutter here, but I want to knock it out quickly with Razor Leaf actually, and we get the crit and the knockout. You might have thought baddie would send Quilava out next, but since Zubat has Leech Life, it's actually next. I do accidentally use Razor Leaf again, but Zubat quad resists Fury Cutter, so it's going to be quite strong anyway when we build it up, and it misses with Supersonic. I set up Reflect so that we aren't too exposed when Quilava comes. Leech Life next only does 3, 1 Fury Cutter lands, and doesn't do very much at all, but then the second, third, fourth, and fifth all land, and we get the knockout eventually on Zubat. Now all we need is Fury Cutter not to miss next against Quilava, and we get the victory. We use Fury Cutter. It does land, but that really wasn't as much as I thought it would be. We get burned with Ember too in the process, but if we stick with Fury Cutter and it lands, we should be okay. It hits, and we win. Bayleaf is moving on. That first segment took 20 minutes and 21 seconds. Yeah, that is not a good time, but these are the formative moments of Meganium, and without the advantage, the time to get through this part is that much slower. Next up, we have Bulbasaur. Is it going to have as much difficulty as we just witnessed? I'm gonna nickname our Venusaur the OG, because it simply is. There's that special overworld sprite yet again. And hey, remember, Bulbasaur does have that weaker defense and the same attack. Maybe the first battle won't go so hot. We're still facing Cyndaquil anyways. First turn we get outsped and crit too. We seemingly do the same with our own tackle though. It continues with tackle, so it looks as if we won't get leered. Over the next 2 turns, we both end up in the orange health, but our berry gives us the advantage. We both tackle and Cyndaquil is red and Bulbasaur is green. Health that is. We finish the baddie battle next turn. So what moves is our Venusaur going to learn today? Leech Seed? Sleep Powder? Are you kidding? Growth? I suppose it's not as good as Swords Dance, but being able to raise our special attack is crazy. Game Freak, why would you keep all this awesome stuff for Venusaur and then give Meganium Reflect and Light Screen? It feels almost like it was intentional to ruin Meganium's reputation from the start. Imagine coming over from Generation 1 and then trying a Grass Starter from Generation 2 to end up with those lackluster moves instead of this for level up moves. Oh boy, I guess we need to be a little patient for Razor Leaf and Synthesis will almost be worthless by the time we learn it, but hey, Venusaur certainly got the better end of this deal. At least for TMs, Venusaur doesn't get Earthquake too. That makes sense, it's part poison type. The poison type really is an interesting combination with grass, since bug and poison are no longer super effective against it. That will make things with Team Rocket go a little more smoothly, and Bugsy will become trivial once again. However, you do gain a disadvantage against Psychic, so it's not purely an advantage. It would be nice if Venusaur got an attacking poison move, but that only happens in later generations. Still though, things are going to be pretty straightforward with Sleep Powder. I don't think we'll need it the entire time, but it will make things a little more consistent, if not a bit slow with the setup. Since Bulbasaur double resists Sprout Tower, we can just skip ahead after we finish Sagely and face off against Faulkner. Faulkner sends out Pidgey first. We will use Tackle instead of Vine Whip, and we move first, doing a third. Even with a neutral Mud Slap, Pidgey uses Tackle instead. We only lose 3. The next 2 turns play out the same with tackles from both sides, and we get the knockout. After leveling up, we face the Pidgeotto next. We switch to Leech Seed and it lands. Gust does a massive 11 damage to OG, but we suck back 4 HP of our own with the Leech Seed. We switch to Tackle next, and that leaves Pidgeotto with around half. Gust does 10 this time, but Leech Seed and a berry brings us to 27 health, which should be enough. Tackle next turn takes it to orange. The Gust isn't making too much of a threat, and the Leech Seed knocks Pidgeotto into the red. Tackle doesn't miss and takes out Pidgeotto with a crit, but I think it was time anyway. OG gets the first badge, and we're headed to Bugsy. Along the way, similar to what we just saw, we grab the Miracle Grow, catch our HM Mechanic Wooper, get Sleep Powder, and evolve into Ivysaur. While Bugsy's battle was an absolute upset from Garbage, OG is playing with house money with Sleep Powder and Leech Seed. Let's get this over with. First up for Bugsy is Metapod. We will continue with Tackle. That crits, leaving Metapod at half health. Metapod does do an all-pro shooting guard, but that's okay. After deliberating for a few moments, I decide to stick with Tackle, and yet again, OG is indeed on a roll with another crit. Tackle does very little, and we finish off the Metapod. Next is Kakuna. Since we're part poison, we don't need to worry about Poison Sting as much damage-wise. We do good damage with Tackle first, then it hardens. Another Tackle takes it to about half. We get hit for 2 with Poison Sting, and that was a crit. Then we Tackle again and get hit with String Shot, which won't matter since Scyther will outspeed anyways, and finally finish it off. We level up to 20 now, and there's Scyther. It does land a massive Fury Cutter for 3 damage, but it appears our Ivysaur has been watching too too much Dateline as Scyther drifts into a deep slumber. Next turn, we switch to Leech Seed as Scyther continues resting. Leech Seed lands and Scyther stays asleep. Tackle follows up next. Scyther remains resting, but our tackle misses. Then Scyther wakes up. This could be its chance at redemption. Quick Attack does good damage, but our Leech Seed and then Tackle takes it below half health. It switches to Fury Cutter next turn, but Leech Seed and Tackle finishes Bugsy off, and we are at full health. Totally different from a garbage. Now there's one battle left before OG's first checkpoint. I'll also teach Fury Cutter over Tackle so that we can get past Cool Lava as quickly as possible. Let's get into it. Batty will send out Ghastly first. You'll notice that I'll put Ghastly to sleep here. That's because I want to avoid paralysis, yes, but I also want to set up Fury Cutter. That's because Batty won't send out Zubat next because we're part poison, so Cool Lava is the only Pokemon super effective against us. As Fury Cutter eventually whittles down the Ghastly, Batty does indeed send out Cool Lava. We stick with Fury Cutter and it lands, taking it to red. It tries Smoke Screen, but that misses luckily, and we finish it off next turn. We level up to 21, and that leaves Batty with one foe left in Zubat. We stick with Fury Cutter even though it is quad resisted. That leaves Zubat in critical condition, and Bite only manages to do 4. Fury Cutter lands still next turn, and Batty is beaten. OG has completed the first checkpoint, and we will be moving to Whitney and Morty for the next checkpoint. That took 17 minutes and 47 seconds, about 2 minutes and 30 seconds ahead of Megarbage. It's certainly not the fastest time we've seen in these challenges, thanks to the trials a grass type has to go through in the first 2 gyms. The better moves and poison type certainly helped OG finish at a faster time than Megarbage. Things are not going to be that bad at Whitney, but Morty is going to be a challenge for sure. How is Bayleaf going to manage? As we enter Ilex Forest, we pick up our HM Historian Paris so that we can cut down this tree and get going. I will pick up Headbutt and we're done here. In Goldenrod, we also get the radio card, bike, and clear out the mandatory trainers underground. You know, we can't use Dig for either of our contestants today, but we should be okay to take on Whitney with Razor Leaf. As we progress through her gym, we'll also get Synthesis at level 23. It's going to be useful for Meganium because it's learned so early on. I will say that the Bulbapedia entry for this move is poorly written. If it's just plain daytime, not morning or evening in game, this move will recover half your health. I believe that actually might be the case for moves like Morning Sun and Moonlight, but it wasn't that important for Umbreon and Espeon's runs. So it's nearly time to face Whitney. Unless her Clefairy gets a Fire Blast or something from Metrodome, we should be alright. Rollout for Miltank won't be that effective. Let's do this. Whitney sends out her first Pokemon in Clefairy. I want to set up with a Reflect first. We outspeed and it metronomes to Safeguard. Since we don't have any status moves, that move means nothing to us. We switch to Razor Leaf next, and it does fantastic damage from a crit, and Clefairy uses Double Slap. Well, with Reflect it only musters 4 damage, so we're able to finish it off next turn. Now we're up against Miltank. It's blazing fast, so it does outspeed with Rollout, but that only does 3. Our Razor Leaf does about a quarter, maybe more. Then Miltank hits again with Rollout, but only for 7. We follow up with Razor Leaf, and oh my goodness, we got another crit. We level up to 24, and we've whittled down Whitney. It's on to Ekritique. On the way, we can pick up Kenya the Spearow, which will let us fly around after we get the 5th badge. Now, we need to talk. As expected, Whitney wasn't an exceptional challenge, but things are about to get tough for this little soybean. Synthesis doesn't really help us since we will be facing off against many ghost poison types that know Curse. Not only will we not be able to get decent damage output, but because of that, we're going to get cursed early on. If you don't knock out the Pokemon by end of your turn, you lose a quarter of your health. It's going to be quite spooky to deal with. On the bright side, we do have a pretty easy time after this. That is until the Elite Four, but still, we need to find a way to get past this. At least there's a lot of easy experience at the Kimono Ladies Dance Theater. After we defeat them and get Surf, I decide to try out some of the gym battles. I can teach Mud Slap, which is physical and super effective, but that means it only deals 40 damage. Still, maybe it can help with causing a miss or something, I don't know. I don't really have a lot of options at this point in the game. I decided to teach it over Headbutt for now, but don't worry, I have an extra copy that I bought at Goldenrod. The first guy in the gym, Sage Ping, has 5 Ghastly. It'll be good to see if we can get past him without too many issues. Once we get in battle, he sends out one of his first 5. We really need to get a knockout or we might reset here. I try Mud Slap, but it doesn't get the knockout. Lucky for us, it doesn't use Curse. If it had, we would have lost. We finish it off and move on. Next, I try Mud Slap again, and very luckily we get a crit. So now there's only 3 left, which is manageable. I continue with Mud Slap to see if maybe it's a range and we'll get a knockout, but it does not appear to be. We continue to luck out with another lick instead of Curse, so now there's only 2 Pokemon left. On the next Ghastly, I try Razor Leaf just to compare, and it looks like it does the same, so honestly with the higher crit rate and PP, Mud Slap isn't very useful. Unfortunately, we get licked here, so we also get paralyzed, and now we're in danger again. Fortunately, it only uses Mean Look, and we're able to move, so we should be able to finish things off here in a second. Ghastly uses Spite next, which fails, but we're also paralyzed. Then it finally uses Curse, but it's too little too late. We move with Razor Leaf and get the knockout, moving on through Morty's gym. I will skip the footage from the trainer battles, but they are all extremely shaky since we can't get the knockouts very easily. To make matters worse, all of Morty's Pokemon can use Hypnosis and put our Bayleaf to sleep. There's a Mint Berry outside of town that we can pick up, but without being able to knock out any of Morty's Pokemon in a single turn, we don't have much of a chance. We're liable to be put to sleep multiple times. Only one way to find out. It's Morty time. Morty has 4 Pokemon and sends out a Ghastly first. Even though we're all the way up to level 30 now, we still have trouble with getting knockouts. I mean, look at this Razor Leaf here. Okay, we get a crit. Haunter's up next now, and we switch to Mud Slap. We do okay with about a third. Luckily, it uses Nightshade, which does damage, but crucially, it's not Curse or Hypnosis. Garbage continues its barrage with Mud Slap, and Haunter is left deep in the red. It tries Hypnosis, but it misses. We switch to Razor Leaf and finish it off, and it misses, of course. But luckily, it misses too with another Hypnosis. We're up to level 31, and unfortunate timing really. We get the opportunity to learn Body Slam. Mud Slap could help a little bit with making Gengar miss Hypnosis, but we have to keep Body Slam, unfortunately. Well, next is Gengar, and we're going to be outsped. Luckily, the first Hypnosis misses, and we do a little bit with Razor Leaf. The Hypnoses continue, but yet another misses. Our Razor Leaf is whittling Gengar down, but not at a good clip. We need a crit. Hypnosis misses once more, and Razor Leaf finally gets Gengar below half health. Hypnosis has somehow missed for a 4th time, and Razor Leaf might be in striking distance. Will Hypnosis miss? Yeah. We haven't even used the Mint Berry. Then we get the knockout with a crit. That is incredible. There is 1 foe left in Haunter. We hit okay with Razor Leaf and it hits back with Spite, which is fine because next turn we finish it off with a crit from Razor Leaf. Morty is nullified, but we're not done yet. I require the battle and Ecruteak with Batty. Since we no longer need Mud Slap and we have Body Slam, this battle should be much easier than if we tried before taking on Morty. The Batty is chilling in Burn Tower, so we're about to wreck his day. Batty sends out Haunter first. We don't do much with Razor Leaf and get Curse as a result. That is bad. We're probably resetting here. At least with the knockout, we stay at full health. Next up is Zubat. With Body Slam, we shouldn't have issues getting past it. Yeah, it's a 1-hit. We level up to 32, and Batty sends out Quilava. I'll stick with Body Slam, but we don't get the knockout. Then we get hit with Smokescreen, which is arguably worse than Ember. We stick with Body Slam and don't miss though, so maybe there's a chance with only 1 Pokemon left, Magnemite. We switch to Razor Leaf since we don't have Mud Slap anymore, but that still does good damage. But we take Curse, then Sonic Boom damage, which leaves us in critical condition. We need a knockout here. I think about Synthesis, but opt for Razor Leaf, and we miss. Curse doesn't knock us out, but Sonic Boom finishes the garbage off for its 2nd reset. Let's try that again. Back in battle now, there's no reason to really change up our strategy yet. Starting off with Razor Leaf yields a great critical hit, and even better, Haunter follows with Lick. We don't get paralyzed and finish it off next turn. Following Haunter is Zubat, which another Body Slam takes care of it. We level up to 32, and Quilava is out next. I'm hoping for Ember this time. Unfortunately, after our Body Slam connects, we get smoked. Since we don't have Curse, we don't have that much to worry about this time, and we don't miss with Body Slam, leaving Magnemite last. We switch to Razor Leaf, which does half this time, and Supersonic, please don't hit. It misses. We also don't miss next turn with Razor Leaf and finish the Batty in Burn Tower and the 2nd checkpoint of this challenge. Plus we hit level 32, so that means we'll be heading into the next checkpoint as Meganium. This is great since we have our full stat distribution and hopefully we can gain some momentum. That being said, McGarbage gets here in 40 minutes and 26 seconds. Frankly, that is slow. However, with Body Slam in our arsenal and the evolution, things should fare better later on. How is Ivysaur going to manage in the same lag of Whitney and Morty? We snag our HM Ant Oddish in Ilex Forest and mirror the same thing we did with Bayleaf through Whitney. We also arrive at level 23, this time grabbing Razorleaf. Really though, with Sleep Powder we ought to be alright. Time to churn Whitney. First for her is Clefairy. We'll use Headbutt since we might get a flinch. We don't, but we do well over half. It follows with Double Slap, which I'm more than okay with as we finish it off next turn. With Miltank out next, we'll just put it to sleep. Hopefully it does move first with Rollout, doing a measly 4 damage. Our Sleep Powder also lands. It could wake at any time, but we can switch to Leech Seed. Miltank remains asleep, but then our Leech Seed misses. That's bound to happen occasionally. Luckily it stays asleep and next turn Leech Seed lands. Next turn we switch to Headbutt, but Miltank wakes up. It uses Rollout and misses. Oh, poor Whitney. We suck a little from Miltank and Headbutt leaves Miltank with about 3 quarts left. Rollout does hit next turn for a little, but Leech Seed and Headbutt do way more, leaving it under half. Miltank does have Milk Drink, but with Rollout hitting, she has no choice but to keep using it. We don't quite knock it out next turn with our Headbutt, but it's on its last legs. Rollout is actually doing good damage now, but our Leech Seed finishes it off. Whitney has been slaughtered. It's now time to head to Ecruteak. While I was extremely worried earlier with Ivysaur, I don't see as many issues cropping up. We still have a damage problem, but with slightly higher special attack and Sleep Powder, we should be able to beat the rival and Morty. In fact, we'll take on Batty first. Let's head to Burn Tower and show him who's boss. Batty is going to send Haunter out first. We don't match up well, but a little Sleep Powder should do the trick. Now that we've replaced Leech Seed with Mud Slap, we'll give that a shot. We get a nice crit and Haunter stays asleep. We should be using Razorleaf since we have higher special attack, but we stick with Mud Slap. Haunter doesn't get knocked out and wakes up actually, but Lick misses anyway. We finish it off, level up to 28, and now we have Quilava. We switch to Headbutt since it will get knocked out pretty quickly. That does half, and Ember does nice damage, but we hold on. Headbutt next also lets Quilava hang on for some reason and sneak another hit in. Okay, that certainly wasn't optimal, but Magnemite is next. We switch to Mud Slap, which doesn't knock it out with the 4 times weakness, and Sonic Boom lands. This is too close for comfort, but we are moving on to Zubat, which shouldn't do much to us. We switch to Headbutt and get the flinch, so it's going to do nothing actually, and Batty is toast. Well, with Mint Berry in hand, we can skip ahead to Morty and hope for a sort of reversal in fortunes. This time we want Sleep Powder to hit from our side. If it does, we should be alright even if Gengar wakes up, not to mention the Ghastly and Haunter we will probably face before. It's time to ghost Morty. Morty sends out Ghastly first. We need to put all of his Pokemon to rest, literally, and luckily our first of many Sleep Powder hits. To make matters worse for Morty, that is, Razorleaf crits. So Haunter's next. We switch back to Sleep Powder, but it misses, and Haunter does not use Curse, thankfully. Still, Nightshade does good damage. Well, next time we do dust the Haunter with Powder. We switch to Razorleaf over the next 3 turns, and we're able to knock it out. We level up to 31, but there won't be anything to learn this time. Gengar is next, and it's the big one. We can try Sleep Powder, but it uses Mean Look before us rather than Hypnosis. Unfortunately, we miss. Ivysaur is quick though, since we move first thanks to a Speed Tie. I think with the Gengar asleep now, we can go to work. We hit once with Razorleaf, then we get outsped, but Gengar remains asleep. However, we miss with Razorleaf. That's not good. Next turn, we outspeed and take Gengar to half, and it remains in a deep slumber. Gengar still doesn't wake up next turn, and Razorleaf leaves Gengar in range. We outspeed and take it out. That was pretty good compliance there. Morty sends out his final Pokemon, and we just stick with Razorleaf. Well, that misses, but we get Mean Look. Curse here would actually let us knock it out faster, but it starts using Nightshade. We do knock it out after 3 Razorleafs, but not the strongest finish to Morty's gym, but a finish nonetheless. OG collects the 4th badge and completes this checkpoint at the 32 minutes and 40 second mark. We're ahead by nearly 8 minutes. 2 checkpoints in, things are heading south for Meganium. I might have underestimated how washed Meganium is. However, the first 4 gyms are not ideal matchups per se. I'm thinking things will pick up here across the next 3 gyms. We will do the next 3 gyms in the traditional order, so we'll head to Olivine to talk to Jasmine at the lighthouse. From there we'll head to Chuck's gym, then take on Jasmine, and finally finish up with Price. Although we don't have the poison type, Chuck's fighting type trainers are not a challenge whatsoever. He honestly won't be either. He has a Primeape that won't be able to withstand Body Slam, and a Poliwrath that won't be able to withstand Razor Leaf. Let's get this over with. Chuck sends out Primeape first. We use Body Slam and do over half. It uses Fury Swipes, which lands twice for only 8 damage. It gets destroyed next turn. Next is Poliwrath. It could put us to sleep, so we're not done yet. We do switch to Razor Leaf and that does half, but then we're put to sleep.
Hey, you're finally awake. You were trying to cross the border, right? Walked right into that Imperial ambush, same as us, and that thief over there.
So now we wait. We stay asleep and then Dynamic Punch sticks the landing. We don't lose too much, but the confusion makes things tougher. We do wake up next turn and we try to sort through the confusion. We work through and Razor Leaf cuts through the rest of Poliwrath's health, and that's all for Chuck. Jasmine is next, and she is the Steel type. It's not the easiest matchup, but luckily her Steelix is part ground type, allowing a neutral matchup with Razor Leaf. We can get paralyzed by the Magnemite, but I'll let Meganium hold the Paralysis Cure Berry. Time to give her a shot. First for Jasmine is Magnemite. We don't have a great move to use, so I stick with Razor Leaf. It does less than half and Thunder Wave hits, wasting our berry. Not the best start, but next turn we connect and there's no knockout. It tries for Thunder Wave again, thankfully missing. However, we also miss and it tries to use Supersonic, also missing. Finally, we get the knockout. Jasmine does send out her Steelix next instead of her second Magnemite, so we don't have to worry about paralysis anymore. I do switch to Reflect just because Iron Tail will be quite painful if it lands. It does, but only does 19 with the Reflect. We switch to Razor Leaf and that does about a third. It lands another Iron Tail that we take just fine, then Razor Leaf connects next turn and we get a well-timed crit. Steelix is down and Magnemite is last. I switch to Body Slam hoping for more damage. It doesn't really help and then we get paralyzed. Oh well, the biggest threat is dealt with. Magnemite tries to use Supersonic and fails. Razor Leaf lands and takes it to red. Supersonic misses yet again, and despite paralysis, we land a final blow. Jasmine is finished. We can head towards Mahogany Town where there's the first infamous stretch of rockets. Once that's finished, we can skip ahead to Price. If you can't tell, his Pokemon are Ice type primarily, so you would think he might finally be a challenge. Unfortunately, they're dual types of water and ground, so we are actually going to be super effective against all of his Pokemon. So sit back and enjoy the ride. First for Price is Steel, and it's actually only water type for whatever reason, not ice, so yeah, it's finished. Next up is Dugong. It is bulky, so although Razor Leaf is super effective, it holds on for dear life. Aurora Beam stings, but it doesn't do too much, and we finish it off next turn. Finally, there's Piloswine. It's physically bulky, but the grass type is special, so yeah, that's Price. Meganium wraps this segment up in 56 minutes and 19 seconds. That split took less than 16 minutes, which is pretty good. I'm thinking the gap won't widen between our combatants, but let's find out. On the way to face Chuck, we do finally evolve into Venusaur. With the high special attack, we will be sweeping through teams easier as well. In fact, I'm excited to see how the battle with Chuck goes. First is Primeape. You can see that we're not close to full health, but with the poison type, we don't have much to worry about. Headbutt does over half and we get leered. We get the knockout next, so now we're facing Poliwrath. We switch to Sleep Powder and that lands, so when we switch to Razor Leaf next turn, Chuck uses a full heal. Since he used an item, we can move anyway, doing more than half, and we outspeed next turn and finish off the Poliwrath, and level up to 34. Chuck's been chucked. Now we're headed to Jasmine's gym. We'll let OG hold a Paralysis Cure Berry too. Without Reflect, we could take some good damage, but we should be okay. Jasmine time. Jasmine sends out Magnemite first. We still have Mud Slap, so we can try that. It isn't quite enough since it's pretty weak overall, but Thunder Wave does miss. It's toast next turn. Steelix follows. I switch to Sleep Powder just because we're defensively weaker. It misses and we take pretty good damage from Iron Tail. Unfortunately, the good luck for Jasmine ends there and Sleep Powder lands. Except that next turn, Razor Leaf misses. Steelix remains asleep, however, and we strike next turn for about a third while Steelix stays soundly asleep. We strike yet again, and now Steelix is getting to a critical point. It doesn't wake up, we go for Razor Leaf, and it doesn't miss, securing the KO. We level up to 35 and need to finish Jasmine's last Pokemon. We switch back to Mud Slap. still with no knockout, and it lands with a Thunder Wave that our berry heals. We finish it and Jasmine off next turn. Last for this checkpoint is Price. It's time to ice him. First is Seal, and we use Razor Leaf. It's a knockout. Next is Dugong, and we actually get the one hits here since we have that higher special attack. And finally there's Piloswine, and just like that, it's gone. With the checkpoint complete in 49 minutes and 22 seconds, let's see how things are going. Okay, things are still spread out, but the gap has tightened ever so slightly with Meganium behind now under 7 minutes. We are hitting this critical stretch. This is where boys become men. We have the 8th badge in Elite 4 ahead. Can Meganium at least bust through? With the last rockets defeated, we can make our way toward Blackthorn City. If we head downstairs, we can pick up this pink bow, which will boost our normal type attacks. We can also grab the move Sunny Day from this woman here. I don't know if we're going to need Sunny Day, at least for Meganium, but it could be useful as it lets Synthesis heal you all the way up, as well as make Solar Beam a one-turn attack. With that, we can take on Claire. She's Dragon type, which resists grass, but with Body Slam on our side, we should smash through her team. She's the last thing standing between us and the Elite Four. Let's take her down. First for Claire is a Dragonair. We will use Body Slam, which doesn't knock it out, and it follows up with Thunder Wave. Well, that stinks. I'm trying to save the Paralysis Cure Berries for the Elite Four, so we'll just have to manage for now. We get outsped with Dragon Breath, which doesn't do very much, and we're able to move, finishing her first Pokemon. Next is another Dragonair. We stick with Body Slam and it chills us with an Ice Beam, but we're able to take it pretty well. We respond with Body Slam, but Dragonair hits us with Ice Beam next turn, leaving us around half health. We do knock it out next, but things are getting tight. There's still one more Dragonair left. We get hit with Dragon Breath, which takes us to orange health. We take it to red with Body Slam, then we get hit with another Dragon Breath. We're taking them okay, but then we get paralyzed for a turn. So I switch to Synthesis, which heals us up nicely. I do accidentally use it again, but it's not the worst move to use. I switch back to Body Slam, but we're paralyzed. Not once, but twice. We do eventually get the knockout, and Claire has one Pokemon left, Kingdra. It is part water type, so Razor Leaf will be useful here. It gets hit with Surf, which we resist, and Razor Leaf does a little more than a third. It follows with another Surf, oddly enough, and Razor Leaf goes through, leaving Kingdra with a little bit of health left. Perhaps Claire will heal here. She does, so we get to try all over again. Luckily Razor Leaf lands, but we get crit, leaving us vulnerable. I try Synthesis thinking I outspeed, but I obviously don't. Hyper Beam hits us, but hey, we survive. Synthesis goes through, but I make the same mistake and try again. We're paralyzed, but still, yet I do it again. Just select Razor Leaf or Body Slam, you fool. Well, I finally come to my senses and we finish off Claire. We're off to the Indigo Plateau. There's not much to fear at the Elite Four. With Body Slam in hand, we can handle Will just fine. We can also get the move Earthquake to help take care of Koga, Bruno, and Karen. Finally, there's Lance. We won't be that strong against him, and his Charizard will definitely be a threat, but we have Light Screen to help us out and survive a Flamethrower. I'm thinking Meganium should make it through okay. Before we do that, we still have one baddie battle we need to take care of. This guy is so bad, and I mean putrid. We do have Earthquake now, but we still need Razor Leaf for Will, so that's probably the only thing that makes this battle a challenge. Time to take down Baddie one last time. First up for Baddie is Sneasel. We use Body Slam and bye-bye Sneasel. Next is Golbat. We stick with Body Slam and it's paralyzed. It doesn't move and we take it out. Now there's Typhlosion. We stick with Body Slam and yet again paralyze another one of Baddie's Pokemon. It is able to move with Flame Wheel, but it does only a quarter. We finish it off with another Body Slam. Next is Magneton. I don't have a great choice here, so I opt for another Body Slam. We don't get close to knocking it out. We're paralyzing, and it paralyzes us with Thunder Wave. We then get Sonic Booms and can't move thanks to paralysis. We do get a miss from Sonic Boom next, and Razor Leaf does about a third. Magnemite misses yet again with Sonic Boom, and Razor Leaf takes care of Magnemite. We level up to 53, and we're pretty lucky we didn't get confused there too. So next is Haunter, and if it curses now, we could be in trouble. It uses Shadow Ball, which is fine, but we're paralyzed. Then next turn, it does use Curse. That's not good, but Razor Leaf lands and we take it out. Finally, there's Kadabra. We just need Body Slam to go through. It does. Baddie is beaten. That was a tougher than usual last Baddie battle, but that's really just because we didn't have enough move slots. Meganium is ready. feeling it. I'm thinking the moves it will have access to will let it be successful. To begin, we have Will, and if there's a will, there's a way. We aren't poison and Will has the psychic type, so this is one of the few matchups where Meganium has the clear advantage over Venusaur. But it's not like Venusaur will have too much trouble either. Anyways, let's get this show on the road. First for Will is one of his Zatu. We definitely don't want to use Razor Leaf, so Body Slam should do the trick. It actually doesn't knock it out, but Body Slam doesn't devastate us too much. Next up is Jinx, and Body Slam definitely will do the trick. Anyway, with that out of the way, we have Executor to deal with. It's pretty defensive, so this might take a second. We hit with Body Slam, and wow, that's a ton of damage from the crit. Psychic does good damage, but we can finish it off after that. Will sends out his last Zatu next. We slam and it survives, but gets paralyzed. It's unable to move. We don't knock it out next turn thanks to a max potion, but since we outspeed, it won't be able to attack as we finish it off over the next 2 turns. And that leaves Will with one final Pokemon, Slowbro. This is the reason we saved Razor Leaf. We surprisingly outspeed, but it does manage to hang on and uses Amnesia, which is too little too late. You finish it off and Will is down. Next up is Koga, and here's where I'll teach Earthquake. If I thought about things correctly, we aren't going to need Razor Leaf anymore. Body Slam and Earthquake should cover just about everything except Aerodactyl, but it's not very strong anyways. Koga is not very good. He's got Poison and Bug types, which aren't that strong, so let's bury him. First is Ariados. We're just trying to knock it out quickly, so we use Earthquake, which is neutral but a little more powerful than Body Slam. Ariados survives and uses Double Team. We put an end to such anti-competitive maneuvers with a Body Slam. Next is Venomoth. We continue with Body Slam. It hangs on and misses with Toxic. Not sure if it's an AI thing, but we switch to Earthquake and end its run. Now we have Muck, but it's going to get the chance to run amok as it hangs on by a thread after our Earthquake. But it uses Acid Armor. Okay, next is Crobat. We switch to Body Slam since it is part flying type. We get it down to half health and maybe some help with paralysis. It does use Double Team, which is annoying, but Body Slam connects and that finishes it off. Finally, there's Fortress. It's part steel, so Earthquake makes the most sense here. Still, we don't do that much damage, but it uses Spikes. Then we Quake again, leaving it with 1 turn of health left. It uses Swift, but it could have exploded, which would not have been good. We finish it off and Koga needs a coffin. So yeah, who's next? Let me check my notes. Oh, Bruno. Yeah, he's not going to be much of a challenge today, unfortunately. After healing up, we're ready to take him on. Bruno sends out Hitmontop first. We opt for Body Slam, but it hits with Quick Attack. That doesn't do very much, and Body Slam will do enough for a 2-turn knockout, but Hitmontop did sneak another Quick Attack in the process. We level up to 55, and Hitmonchan is next. We switch to Earthquake, which didn't knock it out, so now we face the consequences with a massive Fire Punch. Yeah, Hitmonchan is done. Hitmonlee is next, and it lacks good defense. Earthquake would have finished it, crit or not. Machamp is next. It will be crucial for Earthquake to do half. It does manage to hit right where we need, and Cross Chop hits pretty hard, but it didn't crit. Shouldn't matter anyway, as we use Synthesis just to be safe and save some time in the menu with healing after this battle. Machamp uses Foresight, which I'm fine with. We finish off the Machamp and we're left with Bruno's legendary Pokemon. Somehow, some way, we're blessed enough to make it pass with a critical Earthquake and manage to sneak by Bruno. It's on to Karen. Her Umbreon is going to be a nuisance if it uses Sand Attack a few times. If we manage to get by those, we should be gold. Karen is about to meet her fate. First for Karen is Umbreon. I'm hoping Body Slam can do decent damage, but more so paralyze this fool. It doesn't look like it did half, but we do get the paralysis. Even still, we get hit with Sand Attack. I switched to Light Screen since we are likely to face the Houndoom soon anyways, and then we get confused. Great. Luckily, when we switch to Earthquake, we hit and leaves Umbreon in the red. Then it's unable to move with paralysis. Garbage does hit itself in confusion next, but Umbreon is still unable to move. Finally, we get off a final Body Slam and Umbreon is down. Vileplume is next instead of Houndoom, so we might get paralyzed here. I try Body Slam, but the only thing I hit is myself. Vileplume hits with Acid, better than paralysis I suppose. We go for another Body Slam and we snap out of confusion. Even better, we get the knockout thanks to a crit. Well, that's fantastic since now we can outspeed Houndoom. We just need a hit. We switch to Earthquake and it connects. It's finished. We level up to 56 and Gengar follows. It's banished to the Shadow Realm with yet another Earthquake, leaving Karen with one teammate left. It's Murkrow. It should survive a Body Slam, but at least it connects. Oh, wait. It's a crit. Karen is finished. So now it's on the Lance. We've had a pretty good run leading up to him. He's all flying type, so we're just gonna have to Body Slam everything in our path. I'm not sure if we have enough PP, but I'd really like to keep Earthquake for Kanto. If we run out of PP, I might try Rare Candies to get our damage up. We also still have a PP up in our inventory. With some well-timed syntheses and light screens, we should be able to make it through either way. We could get paralyzed, but I'm letting McGarbage hold a critical Paralysis Cure Berry. Still, a lot of his Pokemon have Thunder Wave. Well, it's time. Let's do this. Lance sends out Gyarados first. We move with a Body Slam that hits for over half and it gets paralyzed. It uses Rain Dance. I set up a light screen since he might send out a Dragonite with the Blizzard next. He hits with Hyper Beam, but we manage that okay and finish off Gyarados next turn. Dragonite is out next. We use Body Slam and that does a third. It follows with a Thunder Wave, but we're cured with the berry. We stick with Body Slam and it gets the knockout with a very welcome crit. Next is Aerodactyl. It has super effective wing attack, but we can body a few of those. We hit with a good critical Body Slam that does about half. It does resist it, but it's not very defensive. Wing attack doesn't do that much either, but we'll definitely need to heal. We use another Body Slam and get the paralysis. Still, we get hit with yet another wing attack. Since our light screen is down, we'll have to set that up again. Synthesis heals up a little bit, but wing attack brings us back near half. I set up a light screen next turn, but Aerodactyl still manages to smoke us with wing attack. We must proceed though. I heal up again, then get hit with Hyper Beam. We can heal one more time with the free move at the expense of light screen and then finish the Aerodactyl. I'm hoping it won't matter, but we'll find out soon enough. Charizard is next. We use Body Slam and do massive damage naturally. It also paralyzes the Charizard. We do get hit with Flamethrower, but only for 45 health. Even better, we don't get burned. Even with the light screen down, it won't matter. We get the KO of Body Slam. Dragonite is next, the stronger of the two remaining. We hit with Body Slam and it does a third and gets us yet another paralysis. Still, Dragonite hits and pretty hard with Outrage. We try another Body Slam and it looks close to the end. Outrage follows and that leaves us in bad shape. I do finish off Dragonite, but we're still not finished. There's one Dragonite left. I make a mistake and pick Body Slam. It does slightly more than a third, but we don't get a paralysis. Dragonite uses Thunder Wave and we're paralyzed. It gets to move next as I switch to Synthesis. It's Hyper Beam. Oh no. It misses. The Synthesis breathes new life into Meganium. I'm expecting another attack and Hyper Beam lands, but Synthesis replenishes us fully. Now it has to recharge. One Body Slam takes it to critical health. We get hit with Hyper Beam, we're paralyzed. While it recharges, we're still paralyzed. Another Hyper Beam lands, but we finally move and Dragonite is down. Meganium has defeated the champion. It gets enshrined in the Hall of Fame around the 1 hour and 33 minute mark. Looking back, that was a supremely lucky champion battle, but a few rare candies would have been enough anyway. We're moving on to take on Red next, but first we need to see how Venusaur fares at the 8th gym and the Elite Four versus Meganium. It's about time to take on Claire. We'll actually have a more difficult time than we did with Meganium. Let's get into it to see why. Claire sends out her first Dragonair. Notice that we have Growth now, which raises your special attack, and we have Headbutt instead of Return. I'll explain why soon. We want to avoid paralysis, so we use Sleep Powder first. It lands and we can go ahead and set up Growth. We are able to set up 3 before Dragonair wakes up and paralyzes us. Unable to set up a 4th, we go ahead and switch to Razor Leaf. Even though it's not effective, we are able to finish it without a crit. The next Dragonair does have Ice Beam and hits us for a little damage, but we respond with a Razor Leaf, which crits, but shouldn't matter too much. We level up to 48, and the final Dragonair comes out with a measly Slam, and another Razor Leaf finishes it off. Finally for Claire is Kingdra. Razor Leaf is neutral to it, and Hyper Beam misses, but so does Razor Leaf. It tries Hyper Beam again and misses again, but our Razor Leaf strikes back, and we get a one-hit knockout, finishing the 8th gem. Okay, not bad, but why do I still have Headbutt? I had some tough decisions to make, but I don't think I'm gonna need Return until Kanto. With Growth in hand and Synthesis coming up in a few levels, I'm thinking of trying a full-blown offensive strategy. On the way to the Elite Four, we can pick up TM22, it's Solar Beam. We do naturally learn it at level 65, but we obviously don't plan on training up that far. Instead, I can teach that at Lance's battle, which will help us preserve PP to get us victory. I see absolutely no downsides to this strategy whatsoever. We'll skip ahead to the Elite Four. We saw how bad he was, so no need to embarrass him anymore today. Instead, we'll try and will ourselves to victory against Will. He's going to be pretty tough since we're part poison, but with Sleep Powder we'll manage. Time to crush Will. First for Will is Xatu. We'll sprinkle it with Sleep Powder and get to work. We get off 4 growths, which effectively triples our special attack. Then Xatu wakes and hits us with Confuse Ray instead of Psychic. I want to switch to Razor Leaf, but will we work through our confusion? Yes. Will it be enough? Yes indeed, and Xatu is down. Next out is Jinx. We stick with Razor Leaf and Snap totally out of confusion. It doesn't have much in terms of defenses, so it goes down. Will sends out his second Xatu and we take it out in 1 hit as well. We level up to 53 and get the chance to learn Synthesis. I'll teach that over Headbutt. Executor is next and we'll continue with Razor Leaf. It lands and finishes it off. Finally, there's Slowbro. We somehow outspeed and take it out in 1 hit. Will is wilted. Now we have to take on Koga. We didn't take any damage last battle, so we can head straight in. Will Koga's poison types doom OG? So yeah, the short answer is no. Koga has Ariados out first and we put it straight to sleep. We switch to Growth and use Growth twice, but then it wakes up and double teams. I continue with Growth and it uses Spiderweb, but I need to put it back to sleep before things get out of hand. Sleep Powder lands even with the double team. We continue with Growth for a few more turns, 5 to be exact, which is 1 too many. It wakes up and uses double team. I switch to Razor Leaf and that misses. It continues with double team. This could be bad because it has a baton pass. We miss yet again. However, next turn we do hit with Razor Leaf, which should knock it out, but no, it survives and chooses double team. At least it's not attacking. We do land Razor Leaf and finish it off. Next is Venomoth, and it doesn't have any double teams built up, so we do land a Razor Leaf and it does knock it out thanks to a crit. That's nice. Next is Crobat. We also land a Razor Leaf that also finishes it off thanks to another crit. Very lucky. We now have Fortress. I don't expect 3 crits in a row, so it ought to survive. It does, but it uses spikes. So we finish it off next turn, leaving us with one last Pokemon, Muck. He's pretty defensive too, so Razor Leaf does good damage, but leaves it in the red. It uses Acid Armor foolishly, so we can finish it off next turn, but we miss. It hits pretty hard with Sludge Bomb, but we do manage to finish it off next turn and level up to 54. Koga was certainly more challenging than Will, but I mean, come on. Now we get to clean up at Bruno. I'm not going to bother with healing. With Poison type, we can take Machamp's Cross Chops just fine. Let's get this show on the road. First for Bruno is Hitmontop. I'll set up a Growth and it uses Dig, so I'll set up another. We take a little bit of damage from Dig, but now we can destroy it. Except that we miss and it digs again. In my haste, since I'm actually playing this at 4 times speed, I pick Razor Leaf again, which doesn't do anything, so I apologize for that. We take another Dig, but next turn our Razor Leaf lands and takes out Bruno's first Pokemon. Next is Hitmonchan, which is decently strong, but with 2 Growths, which doubles our special attack, we can handle it fine. Hitmonlee is next, and it does surprisingly have good special defense, but again, same story, Razor Leaf lands and takes it out. Following that is Machamp. He is quite scary if you're normal type, and when Razor Leaf lands, it surprisingly does get the knockout thanks to a crit. Finally, there's Onix. So yeah, it's Onix. If Razor Leaf lands, it's game over. It does. Bruno is finished. Now we have to worry about Karen. After healing up, we're ready to take her on. Meganium had a little bit to worry about with her Umbreon, but so far we've had good luck with Sleep Powder, so if it continues to work, we should be able to get past Karen without too many issues. Could a restless Umbreon into Venusaur's momentum? Karen sends out Umbreon first. We'll need to put it to sleep, but it can still wake up and hit us before we finish setting up. Well, here goes nothing. Sleep Powder lands. We use 1 Growth. Then Umbreon wakes up and uses a Mean Look. That's good, but we'll need to put it back to sleep. Yes, we put it back to sleep. Then we use Growth again. Then Umbreon wakes up once again and uses Feint Attack. Ooh, we're playing with fire here. We switch back to Sleep Powder and it misses. Oh no. Then we get hit with Feint Attack for whatever reason. We try Sleep Powder again and Umbreon falls back asleep. Maybe it'll stay asleep now. We use Growth and nope, it wakes up, this time confusing us. Well, that's better than Sand Attack, I suppose. Next turn we hit ourselves in confusion and Umbreon goes for Feint Attack, still avoiding Sand Attack. I try Sleep Powder again and we snap out of confusion, but it misses. Yet Umbreon still refuses to use Sand Attack. We try Sleep Powder again and it does land now. We then switch to Growth and Umbreon finally stays asleep. Another Growth and Umbreon still stays asleep. I think we've had enough here and switch to Razor Leaf. It doesn't miss and does enough damage to finish Karen's first Pokemon. That was interesting. I'm not sure why it didn't use Sand Attack. We level up to 55 and Karen's next Pokemon is Houndoom. We're at triple damage, so even though it's fire type, I hope it's enough. We use Razor Leaf and it lands. It eventually drains the Houndoom of its HP and it wasn't a crit, which is reassuring. Next is Vileplume. It's quad resistant to our Razor Leaf, but hopefully it does half. Instead, it knocks it out with a clutch crit. Karen sends out Gengar next. It also resists our Razor Leaf, but we have no choice but to try. We hit with Razor Leaf and it too gets knocked out with a crit. Not sure if it mattered, but we're moving on to Murkrow, her last Pokemon standing between us and the champion. We use Razor Leaf and it knocks it out too, with a third crit in a row. Again, not sure if any of these mattered, except maybe Vileplume, but I'm not complaining. Karen is cooked and we have a showdown with the champion next. It's time to enact the grand strategy. We have a Pokemon that is grass type with growth and synthesis against a dragon and flying type trainer. Rather than shy away from who we are and teaching hidden power ice or something, let's lean into our strengths. First, I'll use rare candies up to level 58 just so that we have some extra firepower. And speaking of firepower, I'm going to teach Sunny Day in place of Sleep Powder. That's right, this is a gamble, but I think we can time it right against Charizard. If I'm wrong, we might suffer dearly, but I don't want to see another Pokemon using Rest, Return, Hidden Power like we see on most Generation 2 solo runs. Finally, the last piece of the puzzle is Solar Beam. This will replace Razor Leaf and, combined with Sunny Day and Growth, wreak havoc on Lance's team. It's time to ride. First for the champ is Gyarados. It's the perfect Mon to set up on. It does have Rain Dance, so we'll have to adjust for that, but we should manage. I'll use Growth for the first few turns. We Growth, it uses Rain Dance. We Growth again, it hits with Surf. That does 33 with a crit. We continue with Growth and get hit with another Surf. One more Growth and it switches to Hyper Beam. I use Growth for a 5th time and it has to recharge. Now I'm thinking, with Rain Dance out of the way, should I go ahead and use Sunny Day? I decide against that and use a last Growth instead. It uses Rain Dance, so it was the right move. I want to use Sunny Day and we get hit with Flail. Now I can use Synthesis, which I didn't change the time in Venusaur's game, so it doesn't only recover half with Sunny Day, but as you can see, that's fine. We don't really need it for Venusaur. And Gyarados uses Flail again, so I'm thinking now that Solar Beam should be good. It lands and demolishes the Gyarados. Now we face off against a Dragonite. With Sunny Day still up, our Solar Beam activates and shreds the Dragonite to pieces despite the 4 times resistance to Solar Beam. Nice and easy. Aerodactyl is next and we stick with Solar Beam, finishing it off. Charizard does follow and the sun fades, but we're 12 levels higher. If we can smash through the Dragonite with a Solar Beam, it's gonna cut through Charizard too. The question is, will we survive Flamethrower? We charge up and Flamethrower lands, but we finish above half health. Then Solar Beam lands and Charizard meets its demise. 2 Pokemon remain. Lance sends out his level 50 Dragonite. I can set up okay with Sunny Day. The Outrage does hurt a little, but with Synthesis we are right on track. I switch back to Solar Beam and it destroys the higher level Dragonite with a crit, so who will ever truly know if it mattered? What does matter is that Lance sends out his final Pokemon and it is only level 47, so Solar Beam will end it. Wait, what? I guess that crit earlier mattered. It misses a Thunder Wave and we finish it off, leveling up to 59. OG is the champion. It gets enshrined at the 1 hour and 26 minute mark. Venusaur still ahead by 6 minutes, with the gap tightening only slightly. Both of our combatants require a lot of setup in each of these battles to get through, but Venusaur required even more to get going. But I mean, it was pretty fun to destroy Lance with Solar Beam. Still, there's a major roadblock to the true ending of Pokemon Gold in the battle with Red. There, we won't be overleveled, so strategies as what we just witnessed aren't likely to work. Could you imagine setting up Sunny Day on Red's Charizard and not ending in disaster? We'll need something better than that if we want to get past Red with either Meganium or Venusaur. Let's switch over to Meganium and see how things pan out for it in its preparation and battle with Red. In the lead up to Red's battle, there's only one major item to report. While the Kanto region after defeating Lance is quite easy, we do pick up Giga Drain after defeating Erica at the 3rd Kanto gym. This is a 60 base power move that also heals half of the damage you deal, so it's like Razor Leaf, but you drop the higher crit rate for the added healing ability. It's a fair trade-off for sure. So by the time we reach red, I have given the Meganium the leftovers we grabbed from Snorlax, which replenishes 1/16 of your health each turn. I also teach Giga Drain over Earthquake, which has served us well in dealing with Kanto's underlevel trainers, and then use all of the rare candies until Megarbage is level 75. We still have Body Slam, as I actually think this move will be better than Return, but Meganium is so weak, so I do use the PP ups on it so that we have a little more flexibility. With that out of the way, let's get red out of the way. Red sends out Pikachu first. Even though it's a higher level than us, we do outspeed with Body Slam. It doesn't knock out the little Pipsqueak, but it does paralyze it. That's good since it can paralyze or use Charm, which would make this battle impossible. Unfortunately, on Pikachu and Pikachu only, Red does use Full Restore. We can continue with a cheeky Body Slam, but it looks like we cannot get the range we need. Red uses another Full Restore. On the 3rd Body Slam, we get another Paralysis, and Red yields probably since it's bordering on abuse at this point. We get the knockout and move on to Venusaur. Now things get a little tricky. I will use Body Slam out of the gate, which does over half due to a crit, and Venusaur uses Sunny Day, setting up Charizard, who presumably would be next. I decide to use Light Screen, and now we need to stall out the Sunny Day while preventing Venusaur from using Synthesis. It uses Solar Beam next. Another Body Slam shouldn't knock out the Venusaur, but I'm hoping for a Paralysis to give us a chance. It doesn't work, but it still uses Solar Beam. I decide it's best to finish off Venusaur so we can hopefully get past Charizard, which is indeed next. Since we have Light Screen up, we won't die from Flamethrower thanks to our bulk, but it's going to be close. Body Slam does a 3rd. Flamethrower hits, and it's massive, folks, but it only does half and the sunlight fades, so we continue with Body Slam. Doesn't paralyze, but we should be able to knock out Charizard next turn. Flamethrower does take us down to 50, but we don't get burned, thankfully. We need to finish off Charizard and find a way to get our health back. The leftovers really helps as Espeon is out next. Pretty sure we'll outspeed, so I can set up with Light Screen. We take a Psychic pretty well given the circumstances, so we can use Synthesis now. That brings us back in the green. Psychic lands, but we're well above half with leftovers. We switch to Body Slam next, and that does half. Espeon uses Reflect, which is disappointing, but we can switch to Giga Drain now. That nearly finishes Espeon, but it hangs on. We switch back to Body Slam to finish it off. Snorlax is next. This thing is almost as scary as Charizard. We'll need a bit of luck to win this battle. Giga Drain first makes sense since it has Reflect up, and we'll use Amnesia. I need to turn on our Light Screen again for Blastoise if we somehow knock it out. Then we get a taste of our own medicine, but we don't get paralyzed. Now its Reflect is gone. I need to switch to Body Slam, which I do eventually after thinking for a few moments. That does more than I expect, but it's certainly a long road ahead. Snorlax hits us with another Body Slam with no paralysis. I continue with a Super Slam of my own, and holy smokes, it's deep in the red. We get the crit and the paralysis. It does move with Body Slam, but we don't get paralyzed. Body Slam finishes off Snorlax, and Blastoise is left. Now, it might look over, but Blastoise could freeze us with a Blizzard. Could you imagine? Nevertheless, we use Giga Drain to slurp up some health. It gets Blastoise down to half, and us back to 3/4. Blastoise uses Blizzard, and we brace ourselves. It misses. Garbage has done it. We use Giga Drain, it sucks the life out of the party, Blastoise, and Red is defeated. Garbage defeats Gold in 1 hour and 58 minutes. Not bad despite the extremely rough start. Now let's see how Venusaur does in its last showdown. Then we'll talk about the results. Embarrassingly enough, we do actually get a reset at the last Kanto gym in Blue's battle. Our K9 boomed us with a crit from Flamethrower and then smacked us with an extreme speed. So there you go, we got a reset with Venusaur. But on the second attempt in the battle with Blue, we finished at full health. So with all that out of the way, we'll head to Mount Silver. Before we get into this battle, it's worth noting Venusaur has Giga Drain too, as well as Return. It needed some attacks to make it through Kanto in good time. To learn these moves, we no longer have Synthesis or Sunny Day. How is that going to play out? Well, we'll start using our rare candies and... oh, hold on, that was the wrong Pokemon to use. I won't count this as a reset, hopefully you understand. Well, with rare candies now, we're at level 73 and ready to take on Red. Let's do this. First for Red is Pikachu. Even at a lower level, we should outspeed. I could attack, but We have growth, why not? That's one stage, but then we're hit with charm. Oh no, well, might as well try this out. A second growth is activated and thunder misses. The third growth hits and thunder hits too, but we don't get paralyzed. Growth number 4 is prepped and thunder yet again doesn't paralyze us. A 5th growth is set up and thunder is having pretty good luck for it being a 70% accurate move, but we've yet to be paralyzed. The final growth is ready and we get hit with thunder, both out status folks. I suck the soul out of the worst starter ever devised and it goes down. Espeon is next. Since it's super effective to poison types, I also suck the life out of it. Venusaur is pretty much a serial killer with the strategies it's using today. Snorlax is out after Espeon. I stick with Giga Drain since I do want to take as much out of it before Amnesia, and it ends in the red after we wait for like 30 seconds. Excellent. And it does use Amnesia, so although we had Charm used on us, we will finish it off with a return now. We've got a Venusaur versus Venusaur now. I'm starting to worry. We haven't faced Charizard yet, and I hadn't intended to use the Sunny Day Solar Beam strategy, but I think we might just have to. I use Solar Beam, then Venusaur uses Sunny Day. This might be okay maybe. Solar Beam lands and does over half. The opposing Venusaur does the same to us. I go ahead and finish it off, and Charizard is next. Will this actually work? I tried Giga Drain first for whatever reason. I guess I just wanted to save myself the anger in case we see how close we get to knocking it out with Solar Beam. But, you know, Flamethrower is going to knock us out. But wait, it doesn't knock us out. How is that even possible? Growth doesn't affect special defense. Wow. We switch to Solar Beam and it knocks out Charizard. Guys, we did it. Blastoise is next, and we suck its soul out like a Dementor, fitting into such a disturbed Pokemon. Venusaur beats the game in under an hour and 54 minutes. The real-time result for both of our contestants tightened ever so slightly in the last few checkpoints. Nevertheless, Venusaur finishes ahead by almost 5 minutes. For other stats, Meganium finishes with a game time of 7 hours and 49 minutes at level 75 with 2 resets, while Venusaur finishes with a game time of 7 hours and 30 minutes at level 73 with 1 reset. So what's the verdict? Clearly, Meganium had some damage output issues, especially at the beginning. Once we get past Morty, it holds up pretty well. Still, Body Slam is pretty limiting damage-wise. I also think we got pretty lucky throughout, but Meganium did its best. Venusaur, on the other hand, is pretty good. With Growth, Sleep Powder, and Giga Drain, you can pretty much do whatever you want to any opponent you face. There's still quite a bit of setup involved with both of our Pokemon, but at least the final moves they had were pretty unique compared to what you would normally see in Generation 2. They're both fine, but Grass is definitely not a good type, and it's the biggest thing holding them back. The Poison type combined with Grass helps more than being Grass type alone, so there's that. I'll give Meganium a nice B- and Venusaur a B+. Let me know what you think. Next up, you should check out my other 2 starter videos. Until next time.